All right, welcome back. Welcome back, all our Chasing the Natty listeners. I am Xavier Hood, your host of Chasing the Natty. Usually alongside me, I would have my co-host of Jared Palmgren, who is out because of medical leave, so we will leave him be. This is the Kings Classic start sit discussion, our weekly discussion of who we sit and start every week in our Kings Classic League. So yeah, I guess I'll just jump right in. So, week 5 has come to pass. We had a great week, as you can see, for all our YouTube viewers. We won 256.54 for our team against the Gridiron Scholar, John Lobb, who had a total of 150.5 points. For this week, I really felt bad for Mr. John Lobb. I shout out to John Lobb, a great guy. Follow him, the Gridiron Scholar, on Twitter and all his podcasts that he has that I cannot name because he's on everything and he's just a great, jolly person. Shout out to John Lobb. But we had to make a bounce back week. We had a terrible week 4, but it's not completely our fault. Just things, injuries and other things just, kind of influenced our score a little bit, which is natural in fantasy, but we got players back this week and they showed up. So we ultimately went with the lineup of Sam Howell, CJ Stroud as our starting quarterbacks. This is a 2 QB league. Then we had Ty Chandler, Kenneth Walker as our 2 running backs. And then our flexes were also 2 running backs in Tyler Algier and Damian Moore. And our wide receivers were David Bell, Rashee Rice, and Garrett Wilson. And we had Michael Mayer as our tight end. So I guess going into this, I'll break it down. Our quarterbacks, if you didn't watch the week 5 sit start discussion, our quarterbacks did what we thought they were going to do. They put up big numbers. John's did not. It was boom or bust. Sean Clifford had a great 30-point fantasy point game. Max Duggan had a tough game against Texas. Our running backs, Kenneth Walker did what we thought he was going to do going against Western Kentucky, having a terrible rush defense. Ty Chandler, a little bit, not too much of a surprise, but a little bit surprising where he had 28 points, where he had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. Our wide receivers, David Bell, who came back from injury, got us 120 yards and 6 receptions in a PPR league. So no touchdowns, but it was still enough to, help us with a comfortable win. Rashee Rice was a great start that we had. We saw that he was going against South Florida, and we were just like, well, let's just play the matchup. SMU has a great passing attack. South Florida is not that great defensively on either side of the ball, or rushing or passing. So might as well just start Rashee Rice, even though he's not the number 1 receiver for SMU. So he had a 71-yard receiving yard game with a touchdown and 8 receptions. That was great. Garrett Wilson, 3 receptions, 71 yards, and 1 touchdown. And he also rushed for 13 yards, so that gave us 17.4. Michael Mayer, in his loss to Notre Dame, did not go in vain. He got us 17.3 points. Now, the big story for our week started off on, was it Thursday or Friday, where BYU played Utah State. Tyler Algier exploded, got us 45 points. He had 218 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. Our letdown of the week was Damian Moore as our other flex. They kind of just gave up on him after a few rushes, and he only had 9 yards rushing. So, yeah, he fumbled the ball as well, too. So they gave up on him. We dropped him. We were just like, we were harping on consistency, and it kind of is sad that, we kind of dropped him after 1 bad game, but these things happen. And I guess if you want to go to our bench, I did have the suggestion of Kyle Phillips, just in case David Bell didn't play, he played Arizona State, had 17.8 points. Tyler Snead had 17.8 points against Tulane, sorry. And Charleston Rambo had a decent day as well, too, against Virginia. Our backup running backs, Haskins didn't have that great of a day against Wisconsin. Malusi struggled against Michigan. And Deshaun Corbin had a great day again. It's still kind of an enigma for Jared, but I think, he's just talented enough. And I think, from now on, we can trust him in some of these favorable matchups. And LB had a okay day of 22.96, but I don't think he's living up to the projections that he had, going into the season. So a bit of a letdown. So I guess we can move on to the actual meat of the show. Who are we gonna start in sit for our upcoming week? I'll let people know we are playing CFF Insiders for this week. Yeah, and he still hasn't filled out his entire team, so I feel like that will be resolved probably by tomorrow, which will be Friday for us. So we have a tough discussion here today. Maybe not so tough. We'll see. So it is week 6. I guess we'll start off with the quarterbacks. Sam Howell and CJ Stroud are our starting quarterbacks currently. Sam Howell's going against Florida State, and CJ Stroud is going against Maryland. Our backup is currently Caleb Ellaby. So, I mean, Caleb Ellaby is going against Ball State, but at this point, I am comfortable with Sam Howell and CJ Stroud going into this week to put up enough points to help us win. I'm expecting another 30 to 40 point performance from each of them. Hopefully Sam Howell doesn't revert back to where he has a good game, then he has a bad game, then he has a good game. So, hopefully Florida State doesn't have his card. So I think we're both in agreement. Jared is listening here right now, so if he can give a thumbs up if he wants to, if he's okay with this. But I'm just going to move on to running backs. I think overall we were going to start them regardless. I don't think there was going to be much debate about this. But now we have to move on to our running backs. We have Ty Chandler versus Florida State, which Florida State has a decent pass rush to where they're able to stop the run a little bit. Their rush defense isn't the greatest, but they have a few. It's 76th, 86th. So it's not the greatest. But UNC sometimes kind of gives up in the run game sometimes, and sometimes they don't if they have all their guys. But Ty Chandler, I think, has solidified his role for the UNC offense, and I think he's close to being almost an every week starter for us. And then we have Kenneth Walker versus Rutgers. This is tough. I think based on the talent that we still have to keep him out there, maybe Rutgers gets worn down because Michigan State is a balanced team to where he could get those goal line carries if they get down in their territory and score. It would be nice for him to have a 100-yard game, but Rutgers has shown that they have the ability to stop one dimension of your offense, and mainly if it's going to be relied on Kenneth Walker, then they could slow him down. But I still like him there for the talent perspective and the upside that he could possibly have. So I don't think there's anything to go against that. I'm going to go straight to the flexes. I'll get back to the wide receivers and tight ends. We have Tyler Algier versus Boise. So yeah, I think Tyler Algier is going to get a lot of volume in this game, especially with BYU on their third string quarterback. So I'm not saying he's going to have a 100-yard or 200-yard game like he did last week and 3 touchdowns. But BYU has the 104th rushing defense in the nation. So, why did I meant to say Boise, not BYU. But yeah, so I trust Tyler Algier to be able to run all over Boise and put up some big numbers. So we'll see. And then this is a first for the Kings Classic start-sit discussion, but we were trying to get some waiver wires from last week, and we weren't able to get the people that we wanted. But Jared, all hyped up on his laughing gas and medical drugs, decided to pick up Brandon Bennet versus Coastal Carolina. Brandon Bennet, running back for Coastal Carolina versus Arkansas State, who has a terrible rushing defense. If I'm not mistaken, they're ranked last or close to last. 129th in rushing defense. So he was under the impression that Brandon Bennet, the third string running back, but even though in recent weeks he's been more of the second string running back, to get a good amount of points this week. And yeah, currently the game is finally over, and he got us negative 6 points? So negative 0.6 points. So he did not have a great day. Yeah, I was unable to dispute that because I had some own issues that I had to deal with myself. So I can't be too mad at him. I understand where he was coming from, but if I were to, read the message earlier, then I would probably have stopped him right there. And I was like, all right, let me take the phone away from you. So It's gonna be all right though. It's gonna be all right. I think we still have enough big like time players because off of the week that we just had, if our players are the best, are putting up 250 plus, and that's at our absolute best. And I think that's a comfortable enough. And we had Damian Moore last week who didn't even like put up, a point. So I think we can have one player be a dud. Now, if we have multiple duds, then that's going to be very concerning. And I can't hype up the consistency of all our players. So it's going to be interesting to see who Insiders puts in for the rest of this week. But hopefully we can still get this win. But I guess I should move on to the wide receivers before I start talking about if we can move on and get wins. Raheem Jarrett versus Ohio State. That's who we have currently. I will look on our bench to see if we have anybody better. I mean, I still like Raheem Jarrett of the talent and also the volume that he's about to get with Dante Demas out. Rashee Rice is going against Navy. SMU versus a military school. Military schools are always weird. I never can really tell the difference between any of them. They always throw a wrench into your game plan, but I think with SMU and what they have and Tanner Mordecai, I think Rashee Rice could get involved. So I'm a little bit more sold on him. Garrett Wilson versus Maryland, absolute starter. I think Garrett Wilson at this point is the every week starter. And then I guess we can move on to our tight end, Michael Mayer at Virginia Tech. We don't have another tight end, so we don't have an option to put in another tight end. And we like Michael Mayer as well, too. I think he's an every week starter at this point as well, too. So what the decision we have to do is David Bell is currently on a bye. So that's sad. Our number one draft pick. Charleston Rambo, a player that Jared has loved and raved about all preseason. He's kind of looking like he's getting into form, even with Miami on their backup quarterback. We don't know if Derek King's going to come back after next week or not, but he's on a bye, and we're worried about this week. So now we have two options: Cal Phillips versus Arizona, which Arizona is a bad team, and I would probably advocate for Cal Phillips to go in. I don't know for who yet. Probably more if I was leaning Raheem Jarrett. And also we have Tyler Snead versus UCF. UCF lost to Navy last week, and it wasn't that great. So I think, and we're both expected, if you listen to our preview for Week 6, that we're expecting ECU to win this game. Now, it may be on Keontae Mitchell, but I still think Tyler Snead is going to get good involvement with receptions and maybe a touchdown. So if I had to choose, so this is what I'm going to do. I think this is only fair. So Jared put in a player, not to say behind my back, but put in a player, with his executive order. I'm going to use my executive order as 50%, owner of this team, and I'm going to take Raheem Jarrett out. And I've been a big advocate of Raheem Jarrett, and I'm going to put in Kyle Phillips. Because I just Arizona's just a bad team as a whole, and I think UCLA. I am a little bit worried that maybe they'll go back to the run game, but I think Kyle Phillips has shown enough that he is that one consistent in the receiving game for UCLA. Besides Greg Dulcich, that DTR has. So if he can get involved and get at least a touchdown and a few, maybe over 100 yards, to where I think Arizona's that bad of a defense to where he could easily get that. I feel comfortable doing that than Raheem Jarrett going against Ohio State and, the talent they have even in their secondary. Now, I did say earlier that I had a little bit of a hesitancy with Rashee Rice. I think for now, I'll keep Rashee in. We'll keep him in. I'll let Jared text me anytime from tonight to tomorrow if he wants to disagree and has a case for Tyler Snead, because I'll be open. I'll be willing to listen and open to it. But for everybody else, I think this is really a no-brainer. I think, the only other guy I could probably make a case for, but probably not enough to Jared, would be Deshaun Corbin against UNC. And I'd probably replace him, surprisingly, versus either Kenneth Walker, because I just think Rutgers is that good in terms of stopping the run. So, but I think for now, we keep Kenneth Walker in. So that's, I guess, for now, we're going to go with the lineup of Sam Howell and CJ Stroud as our two starting quarterbacks. Ty Chandler and Kenneth Walker as our two starting running backs. Our three receivers will be Kyle Phillips, Rashee Rice, Garrett Wilson. Our tight end will be Michael Mayer. Our flexes will be Tyler Algier and Brendan Bennet, who played today. So, yeah, that's it for our sit starts. We will look at CFF Insiders team currently and see if we can find any favorable matchups and advantages that we have. So, yeah. So CFF Insiders has decided to not complete his team this week, and I think I know why if you take a look at his bench for all those watching on YouTube. So currently, CFF Insiders has Carson Strong and Bailey Zappi as his starting quarterbacks. Now, Carson Strong hasn't looked that impressive this season. He hasn't lived up to that prolific quarterback that people were, expecting him to be, and that maybe the possible first rounder or great QB for this upcoming draft. But he is going against New Mexico State, so it's the perfect opportunity for him to go off and throw as many touchdowns. Now, he won't have his wide receiver number 2 because he still will have Romeo Dubs. He'll still have Cole Turner, but he will not have Milton Wright, if I'm not mistaken. So, and then you have Bailey Zappi, consistent 30-point plus QB, probably QB1 of fantasy so far this season. So we have to account for the expectations to set against UTSA. And if I'm expecting this to be a shootout, I can be a little bit concerned. At running back, he only has Tyler Goodson in, and that's because he has Sean Tucker as his flex, and David Bailey and Jabari Small are injured for him. So he has no other running back that he could have, but he could also go and put those guys on his IR and then pick up a free agent if he wanted to take a flyer out on one. So that's just a little bit of mystery to see what's going to happen probably by tomorrow or Saturday. His receivers, he only has 2. He has Calvin Austin and Corey Gamage. Calvin Austin is a great receiver for Memphis. The connection to him and Seth Hennigan is only growing, and he's also known for making big plays and getting touchdowns. So going against Tulsa, Tulsa didn't look that great against Ohio State wide receivers, and I'm saying Memphis has Ohio State wide receivers, but Calvin Austin is that elite of a receiver that just will be able to put up yards and points against Tulsa. Corey Gamage for Marshall, I think in terms of Marshall's offense with Ali at the running back, and then you have Grant Wells, and then Gamage being a great target for Wells against Old Dominion. I think it'll be a good game for Gamage. But he doesn't have and I guess that's it for his wide receivers. He doesn't have a third wide receiver 3 or a tight end because he has Marshawn Ford, who I think he's going to put in. He's going against Virginia, which I think will be a good start for him if he does decide to do that and get that in time. And then for his 2 flexes, he has Corey Rucker and Sean Tucker. Corey Rucker has just finished the day with 4 receptions, 39 yards, and a touchdown, which got him 13.9. And Sean Tucker is playing Wake Forest, a tough defense, but Sean Tucker has a lot of volume. So he might have a few opportunities and still get a lot of points. So I guess this is about the time where we would normally do our advantages and positional advantages and disadvantages. Quarterback, this is close. It's really funny because like Bailey Zappi is, I think, without a shadow of a doubt, the best QB in college fantasy football at this moment. And I think with him going against UTSA, I am legit concerned that he's going to put up another 60-point performance, and that's going to be scary because I think both of our quarterbacks are going to put up like 30 to 40. So if one person is doing 80 to 90% of both of our quarterbacks' worth, that doesn't spell well. But I think Carson Strong, with the down year that he's had, I'm not saying he's going to have a dud day. Like he's had good days against lesser competition. Against Idaho State, he went off and had 4 touchdowns and had a good day. And they're going against New Mexico State. But I think with Sam Howell and CJ Stroud, I like the culmination of the 2 and the balance to where I feel like this will average out and it'll be pretty even. But you know what? For the sake of the show, I'm going to give it a CFF based on the gut feeling of Bailey Zappi going off and Carson Strong having a good day. And I think our 2 quarterbacks are going to replicate last week and, still have good days, but not as good as the other 2. I guess moving on to our running backs, considering that he has 1, and I don't expect Tyler Goodson to have that great of numbers against Penn State, I'm going to give it to our running backs, Ty Chandler and Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker doesn't have to have the greatest of days, but doesn't even have just, a day. And Ty Chandler, I'm expecting, big things, whether it's through the air or on the ground. Receivers, we have 3 receivers. He has 2. Calvin Austin is a great receiver. I think he probably has the better matchup out of all three of our receivers. I still like Garrett Wilson versus Maryland. I think he's going to have a great day as well, too. Rashee Rice versus Navy, we'll see. Kyle Phillips versus Arizona is probably better than Corey Gamage versus Old Dominion, in my personal opinion. So, overall, I'll give it to our receivers. If I had to expect him to start Marshawn Ford at tight end, then that's going to be a little bit tough. Because it just depends on who Notre Dame puts in at quarterback. But I'm still going to give it to Michael Meyer, to where I think he consistently still finds targets. So I think we win in that battle. Now, in terms of our flexes, out of our flexes, I'm going to have to chalk this up to insiders, because Brandon Bennet did not pan out for us as Jared thought. But Tyler Algier, if he could have, close to the day that he had last week of 45 points, I think that will, be helpful enough, because Sean Tucker is facing a tough Wake Forest team. So, that's mainly it for our Kings Classics start-sit discussion. Thank you all for coming in and listening to me ramble on about how we're going to figure out this team for this week, and seeing some of the early decisions that Jared made, and seeing who we're facing this week and the challenges they're facing. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on all streaming platforms and video platforms, from YouTube to Spotify to Apple Music. Oh, leave those 5-star reviews. Jared really appreciates them. I do as well, too. Follow us on Twitter at CFF_Jared and CFF_Xavier. We love hearing your feedback. Love hearing just general questions that you have about start sits, or just in general about fantasy, or, if you want to just, poke fun at us about Georgia, or, if you're a Florida fan, then, we can engage some good little banter as well, too. But that's mainly it for our show today. So I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day, whatever time you're listening to us at, or me at. And